Welcome into a live edition, or a replay edition if you're watching it a little bit later on, of the Players Club. It's the Week 12 edition. Jim Dunaway along with Lance Taylor inside the Next Round studios, and down in his beautiful studios, that's Mick Gillispie from Bama Insider. And Mick will be talking to us in a second. We're brought to you today by, and always, by our friends at Golden Moon Hotel and Casino in Philadelphia, Mississippi, just a short drive from Birmingham. The sports book at Timeout Lounge offers Vegas-style sports book and traditional sports betting right there for all of your games, and a great deal right now from now until March Madness. If you bet $50 over at the Golden Moon Hotel and Casino, you get to play a round at the Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, known as Mississippi's Augusta. You can play that for just $30. A $50 bet gets you a $30 green fee all the way up to March Madness. The sportsbook at Golden Moon Casino. Play the game at the Timeout Lounge. All right, guys, let's get 5 games here today. 5 games on this big weekend. Let's start with a huge game. Mick, I'll start with you. TCU at Baylor, where TCU finally, I thought, played a complete game last week against Texas.
Yeah, look, they were a touchdown underdog, and they rose up, right? The defense was great. Bijan Robinson was shut down. They won the game 17-10, and they've been so good this year not turning the football over. They've been very efficient. They've only turned it over 7 times the entire year. And for Baylor to win this football game, and remember, guys, I thought Baylor was going to contend for the college football playoff, but it's been TCU instead of Baylor. For Baylor to win, they're going to have to run the football. They're 5-0 when they run the ball for 170 yards plus, 230 yards or more in those games, but they're 1-4 when they don't. And TCU has yet to allow more than 200 yards on the ground, and they only gave up 170 yards 3 times. I like Hacksaw Max Duggan, what he's doing at quarterback. You know, Sonny's got these guys dialed in. They believe. I think we continue to look at them and say they're going to lose. This week, they're a 2.5-point favorite at Baylor. They're going to win by more than 2.5.
Okay, this is one of those games I won't touch because it's at 11 o'clock. The bad news is I faded TCU again last week and took Texas. The good news is I had Kansas State dominating Baylor. Baylor's been one of these up-and-down teams, but they've covered 11 of their last 15 as a home dog since 2011. They're coming off a terrible offensive performance. I just don't believe TCU's defense can play again in back-to-back games like it did last week. TCU's been great, though. They're 8-1-1 against the number. That's the best cover percentage in the FBS. 5-0 at home, 5-0 on the road. I'm going to keep fading, though. I'm going to take the Baylor Bears plus 2.5.
I'm going to take Baylor, too, Mick. I'm going to ride with Dave Aranda's defense, maybe, to keep this a low-scoring game. It opened at 56.5. It's at 57.5. They're not expecting this to be a wild shootout, so that'll be interesting to watch. Game number 2 of the Players Club today. Let's go to Georgia and Kentucky, up to Kroger Field, what used to be Commonwealth, Mick. Georgia seems to be hitting all the right notes and playing just great football. Minus 22.5 on the road in Big Blue.
Yeah, look, and they've become Alabama. I mean, and they've stolen Alabama's identity. Kirby brought it over. This team is just so good. We saw him beat up Mississippi State last week. Stetson Bennett isn't a Heisman Trophy winner. He's not going to win the Heisman, but you know what? He's been really good. He's, 67+% completion. He's got almost 3,000 yards passing this year. There's 4 games still to go, and the guy just continues to be very efficient. He's only thrown 5 interceptions in 330 attempts. You know, the Bulldogs spread the ball around, and if this was Alabama, we'd be like, well, it's because our receivers stink, right? 9 different receivers have 10 receptions. You know, so it's hard to figure out. They don't have, like, the go-to receiver guy, that's a wideout. I mean, we all know about the tight ends, but and on top of that, Georgia's won 12 consecutive meetings. They just absolutely dominate Kentucky over the years, 61-12. Kentucky's not winning this football game. The Bulldogs have won the last 5 games by 14 or more points, right? The spread's like 22.5 right now. But Georgia's been great against the spread on the road. They covered last week. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games against the spread. And then Kentucky lost to Vanderbilt. Oh, yeah, maybe they're going to be a little bit more motivated. I don't think it's going to matter. They're going to get a good old-fashioned country butt whooping, and it's going to be all Georgia.
Look, Kentucky's only scored more than 21 points on one SEC defense this year, where they scored 27 on Mississippi State. This offense has been awful. 2 of the last 3 games, Will Levis, a projected first-round guy, has had a QBR of 20 or worse. Now he's going against the second best defense as far as points against in college football. Georgia only giving up 11.6. They're 12-3 against the numbers, the road favorite since 2019. Big number. I'll lay it. 22.5. I'm taking Georgia.
We all agree on Georgia there, and I agree with everything you said about them stealing Alabama's identity. 3 more games to go on the Saturday Week 12 slate, brought to you by the Golden Moon Hotel and Casino over in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and the sports book at Timeout Lounge. All the Vegas-style sports booking, and don't forget, if you bet $50, you get a $30 green fee right there at Dancing Rabbit. If you go over there before March Madness, it's the sports book at the Golden Moon Casino. Play the game. Let's go to Bedlam, Oklahoma State, an underdog in Norman. Oklahoma favored by 7.5. Mick, I like Oklahoma State in this one because I think Sanders comes back and plays in this one, and that makes the Cowboys a tougher out. I like Oklahoma State to cover, maybe win the game outright. How about you?
Look, they're going to need them. I mean, they struggled against Kansas State and Kansas, 2 really bad losses. They struggled against Iowa State, but their defense played well. Oklahoma last week didn't turn the ball over, but they still lost to West Virginia by 3, which, that kind of shows you where they are this year, a 500 team. The Cowboys, though, they're kind of still in contention in the Big 12 standings. I mean, they need some help. Obviously, they need Kansas State to lose, and maybe they get into that championship game, and that's where they lost last year to Baylor. The problem to me is that Oklahoma State is just so inconsistent. And besides that, we call Bedlam a big rivalry, but it's not. I mean, this, I guess it could be the last one, maybe next year, whenever they go into the SEC, Oklahoma, this big matchup might be done. Well, look, it's 19-7 over the years in favor of Oklahoma. So the Cowboys probably glad that they're not going to have to play this anymore. I mean, they just get their butts kicked every year by the Sooners, although they did win last year, although Oklahoma's coach was obviously focused on USC and leaving town. The Cowboys maybe catch the Sooners at an opportune time. They won the game last year. Oklahoma, and they're 1-6. In their last 7 games against the spread. This game is so puzzling to me just because I don't know who's going to play for Oklahoma State. But, Jim, you said it. If Sanders is there, they're a pretty good team. And Oklahoma has been the biggest disappointment in college football. 7.5, Oklahoma. Hey, look, I'm taking Oklahoma State.
So Gundy 3-14 all time in Bedlam against Oklahoma. That's not good. You look at Oklahoma, though, this offense is so different from when Lincoln Riley was there. From 2017 to 2021, the offense was first in points per game. 1 year under Venables, they're 42nd this year. The good news is Eric Gray has gone 100 yards and a touchdown in 4 consecutive games. This number is weird to me. This number should be more 3.5, probably inflated because of the success Oklahoma's had in the rivalry. I'm going to lay it here. I think Oklahoma State with Sanders, which I think will start, is probably the better team. I think it's a good spot for Oklahoma. I'll take Oklahoma minus 7.5.
So you're taking the Sooners. Mick and I are with Oklahoma State. USC and UCLA play for the Victory Bell out at Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. USC, the road team, technically, will not be surprised if they have more fans in the stand than UCLA does. They're pulling up the tarps. They're saying it's a sellout. Minus 2.5 USC at UCLA. You start us off, Lance. I am personally like USC in this one.
That's a weird game. I wish UCLA would have won last week. I hate the fact that they're coming off a loss. This would be a top 10 matchup. It would have a lot more appeal. Last year, UCLA put 60 on them. Dorian Thompson-Robinson had 6 touchdowns. It's his 4th consecutive start against USC. He knows this team really well. I think UCLA is the better overall team. And weird stat here, USC 1-6 against the number when the spread is between -3 and +3 since the start of 2016. I like UCLA at home +2.5.
What about you, Mick?
I'm going the other direction. Look, USC's in first place in their conference. They're 9-1. They lost the one game by 1 point to Utah, right? the Trojans are a good team. Now, they did lose Travis Dye to a knee injury. That's tough. But see, Caleb Williams is still a great quarterback. UCLA, look, a terrible loss last week to Arizona. I just think the Trojans are going to make the college football playoff. I think this is the beginning of a run for them. 2.5 points is where it started. It's down to 1.5, which means it's pretty much a pick 'em. No one really cares about UCLA football in California. Lance, you know that. You used to live there. I've lived in California too. I know. No one even knows they exist, but everyone likes USC. Up and down the coast, they're going to have a big crowd there. People are starting to believe. USC, even without Dye, I think they figure out a way to score points. And I believe in Lincoln Riley. I mean, this is a game that I would not bet on, but at the same time, I'm taking the Trojans.
Okay, one more quick one here in our Timeout Lounge Players Club, giving you 5 free plays for the weekend. It's Utah at Oregon. All I need to see is that Utah is a -1.5 favorite at Autzen Stadium. It'll be loud. It'll be sold out, but I'm going to take Utah here. No way I think Utah should be favored in this game. They're telling me they're favored. Mick, I'm going to take Utah over Oregon, and I'm going to go with whatever Vegas knows here.
Not me, Jim. I'm on the other side of this one. Look, man, I mean, I love a home dog, and I mean, give me Oregon +2. They got this guy named Ben Nix. Bo Nix.
Bo Nix.
You've heard of him before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy that used to be at Auburn, and he's actually a really good quarterback. And where Auburn, they stink. Actually, Oregon's pretty good, and they're moving. Even though they lost last week, I like the way that this team's playing, and they're moving in the right direction as a program. Dan Lanning's done a great job. Teams are going to be trying to hire Dan Lanning in the offseason, but he acts like he's going to stick around there, and he could build a program. I know Oregon kicked their butts last year twice, physically ran over Oregon, and that's probably why the spread looks like it does right now. But I think the fact that Washington took care of Oregon last week will have the Ducks very focused in this game. And I think they're going to score some points. I think it's going to be a close game. But look, I love a home dog, and I think the Ducks are a legitimately good football team.
You take one play away from each team, both could be 9-1. Utah, that bad pick from Cam Rising week 1 against Florida. Oregon going for it on 4th down last week against Washington. They lose that game. Their 23-game winning streak at home at Autzen has been snapped. I'm going to give them back-to-back losses here. I think Utah's defense will be the difference. You look at Bo Nix, as good as he's been, 38 total touchdowns, he's only been sacked once this year. I think Utah will put pressure on him, force a couple of mistakes. Cam Rising is legitimate. I think Utah gets it done.
Don't forget, you can get all the plays. This is so important. I mean, an unbelievable service. 19 or 20 weeks now straight at lanceslock.com.
Well, we had 19 consecutive non-losing weeks. We did lose last week. We still had a winning week in football, and we're coming off a 2-1 last night in college basketball. We're going to bounce back this week. We're going to win for you. Jump on board. Everything. College basketball, the NBA, of course, college football, the NFL. It's all only $90 per month. We've got daily packages available. We got a free play every single day. Go to lanceslock.com for that free play and to see how to get on board. lanceslock.com. Great holiday present as well.
Don't forget the recap here. LT and I like Baylor. Mick's riding with the Horned Frogs. All of us like Georgia. Oklahoma State for Mick and I. LT likes Oklahoma. USC for me and Mick. LT likes UCLA. And then Utah for LT and me, and Mick likes Oregon. You can see Mick Gillispie all the time on Bama Insider and right here in the Players Club. Mick, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week before Thanksgiving, okay?
Yeah, can't wait, guys. Week 12. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so fast. All right, that's the Players Club.